It was a quiet morning in a small town. The sky was gray, and the air felt cold and heavy. A man named Daniel was walking along the river, just like he did every day. He liked the silence. It helped him think and forget his worries. But that morning was different. Something unusual caught his eye near the water. At first, Daniel thought it was just an old bag left behind by someone careless. It was a dark green suitcase, half covered in mud and wet from the river. The waves gently pushed it against the rocks, making a soft, strange sound. Daniel stopped walking. He stared at it for a moment, unsure of what to do. Something about it did not feel right. He slowly stepped closer. His shoes sank slightly into the wet ground as he moved. The suitcase looked old but strong. It had scratches on its surface, and the handle looked worn out. There were also dark stains on it, but Daniel could not tell what they were. He felt a chill run down his back. For a moment, he thought about leaving. It was not his problem after all. But curiosity pulled him in. He looked around to see if anyone else was nearby. The riverbank was empty. No one was watching. The silence made everything feel even more strange. Daniel bent down and touched the suitcase. It was cold and heavy. He tried to lift it, but it did not move easily. Whatever was inside was not light. His heart began to beat faster. He did not know why, but he suddenly felt nervous. He told himself it was just an old bag, nothing more. He reached for the lock. His hands were shaking a little now. The metal felt rough under his fingers. He paused again, thinking carefully. Opening it might be a mistake, but walking away felt even worse. He needed to know what was inside. Taking a deep breath, Daniel pulled at the lock. It did not open at first. He tried again, harder this time. With a small click, the lock finally gave way. The sound echoed softly in the quiet morning. Daniel slowly lifted the lid. As the suitcase opened, a strong, strange smell came out. Daniel quickly covered his nose, his eyes wide with shock. He stepped back, almost losing his balance. What he saw inside made his heart race even faster, and in that moment, he realized this was not just a forgotten bag by the river, and whatever was hidden inside it was only the beginning of something much darker that was about to unfold. Daniel stumbled back as the smell grew stronger. It was not a normal smell. It was heavy, rotten, and hard to ignore. His stomach turned, and he felt like he might be sick. He covered his mouth with his hand and tried to breathe slowly. For a few seconds, he could not move. His eyes were still fixed on the open suitcase. Inside, there were clothes, but they were not folded neatly. They were stuffed inside in a messy way. The clothes looked wet and dirty. Some of them had dark stains. Daniel's hands began to shake even more. He told himself again that maybe it was nothing serious, maybe just trash. But deep down, he knew that was not true. He took a small step closer, even though every part of him wanted to run away. His mind was full of fear and questions. Why would someone leave a suitcase like this near the river? Why was it so heavy? Why did it smell like that? None of it made sense. Daniel forced himself to look again, more carefully this time. He used a stick from the ground to gently move one piece of clothing. As he did that, something underneath became slightly visible. He froze. His breath stopped for a moment. His heart pounded loudly in his chest. He quickly dropped the stick and stepped back again. No, this can't be real, he whispered to himself. His voice was shaking. His legs felt weak, like they could give up at any moment. He turned away, trying not to look again, but his mind would not let him forget what he had just seen. He knew right then that this was something serious. This was not just a lost suitcase. This was something dangerous, something connected to a terrible secret. He looked around again, his eyes moving quickly across the empty riverbank. The silence now felt scary, like someone could be watching him from far away. Daniel pulled out his phone with trembling hands. He tried to unlock it, but his fingers were not steady. It took him a few tries before he could finally dial for help. As the phone rang, he felt his heart beating harder and harder. Every second felt long and heavy. When the call connected, Daniel struggled to speak clearly. He explained where he was and what he had found, though his words came out broken and fast. The person on the other end told him to stay where he was and not to touch anything. Help was on the way. After the call ended, Daniel stood there, unsure of what to do next. He did not want to go near the suitcase again, but he also did not want to leave. He felt stuck between fear and responsibility. The cold air around him suddenly felt even colder. Minutes passed slowly. Daniel kept looking over his shoulder, feeling uneasy. Every small sound made him jump. The wind moving through the trees sounded louder than before. The river no longer felt calm. It felt like it was hiding something. Finally, in the distance, Daniel heard the faint sound of sirens. Relief washed over him, but the fear did not go away. As the sound grew louder, he knew that everything was about to change. Whatever was inside that suitcase was going to bring trouble, not just for him, but for many others. Soon, police cars arrived, their lights flashing against the gray sky. Officers stepped out quickly and began to secure the area. They asked Daniel to move back and keep his distance. He watched as they approached the suitcase carefully, wearing gloves and speaking in low voices. One of the officers slowly looked inside. His face changed immediately. He called the others over. Their serious expressions told Daniel everything he needed to know. This was much worse than anyone had expected. Daniel sat down on a nearby rock, trying to calm himself. His mind was full of fear, confusion, and questions. He had only gone for a simple walk, but now he was part of something dark and frightening. As more officers arrived and the area filled with activity, Daniel realized that this was just the beginning. The suitcase had been opened, but the truth behind it was still hidden. And somewhere out there, the person responsible was still free. And the story was only starting to unfold in ways no one could yet imagine. The police quickly cordoned off the riverbank, their yellow tape fluttering in the cold wind. Daniel stood behind it, shivering, though it was not just from the chill. His mind was racing with fear and curiosity. He watched as officers carefully examined the suitcase and its contents. There was something inside that made even the strongest officers look uneasy. Daniel had never seen anything like it in his life, and he felt both scared and responsible for what had been discovered. One officer, a tall man with a serious face, asked Daniel to explain everything he had seen and done since finding the suitcase. Daniel recounted his steps slowly, his voice shaking at times. He told them how he had walked along the river, noticed the bag, and finally opened it. He did not leave anything out. The officer nodded, taking notes and occasionally glancing at the suitcase with a frown. Daniel realized the situation was bigger than he had first imagined. More officers arrived, and soon a forensic team joined the investigation. They wore masks and gloves, moving cautiously around the suitcase. Some of them knelt down, examining the stains and carefully taking photographs. Others began to collect samples in small labeled bags. Daniel watched as they worked, fascinated and horrified at the same time. He could see the seriousness in their eyes. This was no ordinary crime. The detectives asked Daniel to step back even further. They needed space to work, and they wanted him out of immediate danger. He obeyed, though it was difficult. He felt like if he looked away for even a second, he might miss something important. A few moments later, a detective approached him and asked more questions. "Did you see anyone near the river earlier?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Daniel shook his head. "No, it was empty. Just me," he replied. The detective made notes and then looked toward the suitcase again. The forensic team began to carefully remove items from the suitcase. Each piece was examined and labeled. Daniel noticed that the stains were darker than he had first thought, and there were items that did not belong in a normal suitcase. Broken pieces of rope, a torn cloth, and some papers soaked in water. Each discovery made his stomach churn. He had never expected to see anything like this in his quiet town. Detectives also began taking photographs of the surrounding area. They wanted to make sure they documented everything before moving the suitcase completely. Footprints were found near the riverbank, partially washed away by the flowing water. The officers photographed them, noting their size and direction. Daniel realized that whoever had left the suitcase here had been careful, but not careful enough. Clues were left behind, and now the police were using them to start piecing together the story. As the investigation continued, a police officer asked Daniel for a full description of the suitcase. Daniel described its color, size, and condition. He also mentioned the dark stains and the strange smell that had come from inside. The officer nodded, writing everything down in a small notebook. Daniel felt nervous, knowing that this small act of noticing details might help solve a crime, but he also felt a heavy weight. He could not stop thinking about what might have happened to the person connected to this suitcase. Hours passed, and more investigators arrived, including a detective who specialized in serious crimes. He carefully examined the suitcase and its contents with a magnifying glass, looking for fingerprints or other evidence. The detective also examined the rope and the torn cloth. He seemed particularly interested in the papers, handling them gently. Daniel watched as they worked, realizing how complex the case was becoming. It was no longer just a mysterious suitcase. It was a puzzle with pieces that could lead to something terrible. While the investigation continued, Daniel could not help thinking about the person responsible. Who would do such a thing? Why here, by the river, in a quiet town? Questions without answers filled his mind. Every sound of the flowing river and the rustling trees felt louder now, as if they were hiding secrets. He wanted to leave, to go home and forget everything, but he knew he could not. He was already involved, whether he liked it or not. By the evening, the investigators had gathered most of the physical evidence. The suitcase itself was carefully placed in a large plastic bag to be taken to the police station for further examination. Daniel followed at a distance, his mind spinning. This was only the beginning, he realized. The suitcase might be gone from the riverbank, but the truth behind it was still out there, waiting to be discovered. Somewhere, the person who left it was watching, hiding, or planning their next move. Detectives decided to interview more people in the area. They hoped someone had seen or heard something unusual. Daniel watched as they went door to door, asking neighbors questions. The town, usually quiet and predictable, felt tense and alive with fear. Everyone seemed cautious, looking around nervously. Daniel understood why. The suitcase had changed everything. A calm morning had turned into a day filled with mystery, fear, and questions that had no answers yet. As night fell, the riverbank was empty once more, except for a few police cars and the faint glow of flashlights. Daniel knew he could not forget what he had seen. The suitcase was gone for now, but the memory of it would not leave him. He shivered, thinking about the next day, about what the investigation might reveal, and about the person responsible. Something dark had entered his quiet life, and there was no turning back. The detectives promised to keep Daniel updated, but he knew that the story would not end quickly. There were more questions than answers. Who had left the suitcase? What exactly had been inside? Why here? The night was dark and cold, but Daniel felt a heavier shadow in his mind, one that would follow him as he tried to sleep. He realized that this case was far from over, and that the riverbank, which once had seemed peaceful, would now always remind him of the terrible discovery and the dangerous secrets that were still waiting to be uncovered. And even as he walked home, he could not shake the feeling that this was only the start of something much bigger, something that would change his town forever, and that the real story behind the suitcase was only beginning to unfold. The room was silent as Daniel and Inspector Moriuki stood facing each other. The old man they had just spoken to had already closed his door, leaving them alone in the narrow hallway. The light above them buzzed softly, making the moment feel even more tense. Daniel's mind was racing. What did he mean? He asked, his voice low. Why would someone watch that alley every night? Inspector Moriuki did not answer immediately. He looked thoughtful, his eyes focused on the ground as if he was putting pieces together in his head. That man is afraid, Moriuki finally said, and people are only that afraid when they know something dangerous. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. So, this is bigger than we thought? Moriyuki nodded slowly. Much bigger. They walked out of the building and into the cool night air. The street was quiet, but Daniel could not shake the feeling that someone might be watching them. He looked around, but everything seemed normal. Still, the fear stayed with him. "Let's go back to the station," Moriyuki said. "I need to check something." During the drive, neither of them spoke much. Daniel kept thinking about the suitcase, the smell, and what he had seen inside. But now, there was something else. Something even more troubling. Someone had been watching that alley. Someone had placed that suitcase there on purpose. When they arrived at the station, Moriyuki went straight to his office. He opened a drawer and pulled out a thick file. The papers inside looked old and worn. "What is that?" Daniel asked. Moriyuki placed the file on the table and opened it. "A case from 2 years ago," he said. "Unsolved." Daniel leaned closer. Inside the file were photos, dark photos. Each one showed a different location, but there was one thing that connected them all. A suitcase. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. "No, this can't be the same thing." Moriyuki nodded. "It is, or at least, it looks very similar." Daniel flipped through the pages. Each case had the same pattern. A suitcase was found in a quiet place. Inside, there was a body. But the strange part was that none of the victims were ever identified. It was as if they had no past, no family, no history. "Why were these cases closed?" Daniel asked. "They were not closed," Moriyuki replied. "They just stopped." Daniel frowned. "Stopped?" "Yes," Moriyuki said. "After the third case, there were no more reports, no more suitcases. It was like the person responsible just disappeared." Daniel looked back at the photos, his hands slightly shaking. "And now, it's happening again." Before Moriyuki could answer, there was a knock on the door. A young officer stepped in. "Inspector, we just got a report." Moriyuki stood up. "What is it?" "Another suitcase," the officer said. The room went completely still. "Where?" Moriyuki asked quickly. "Near the river, about 10 minutes from here." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. "Another one. Already?" Moriyuki grabbed his coat. "Let's go." The drive to the river felt longer than it should have been. Daniel stared out of the window, his thoughts heavy. If there was another suitcase, then this was not just one crime. It was a series, a pattern. And patterns meant planning. When they arrived, police lights were already flashing. The area had been blocked off, and a few officers were standing around, talking quietly. The river flowed slowly nearby, its dark water reflecting the lights. In the middle of the scene was the suitcase. Daniel's chest tightened as he saw it. It looked almost the same as the first one. Old, black, damaged. Moriyuki walked closer, his face serious. "Has anyone opened it?" he asked. "No, sir," one officer replied. Moriyuki nodded. "Good." He turned to Daniel. "Stay here." But Daniel shook his head. "No, I need to see." Moriyuki looked at him for a moment, then gave a small nod. Together, they stepped closer to the suitcase. Moriyuki put on gloves and slowly opened it. Daniel held his breath. Inside was not what he expected. There was no body. Instead, there were clothes, neatly folded. On top of them was a small envelope. Moriyuki carefully picked it up. "What is it?" Daniel asked. Moriyuki opened the envelope and pulled out a single piece of paper. His expression changed. "What does it say?" Daniel asked, his voice tense. Moriyuki hesitated for a moment before reading it aloud. "You were not supposed to look inside," Daniel's heart dropped. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Daniel said quietly, This is a message." Moriyuki nodded slowly. "Yes." Daniel looked around nervously. "To us?" Moriyuki's eyes moved across the scene, scanning every shadow, every corner. "No," he said. "Not just us." Daniel felt fear rise again. "Then who?" Moriyuki folded the paper and placed it back into the envelope. His face was now more serious than ever. "This," he said, "is a warning." The wind suddenly grew stronger, moving through the trees and across the water. The sound of it made Daniel feel uneasy, like something was coming. "But why leave a suitcase with no body?" Daniel asked. Moriyuki looked at the suitcase again. "Because the killer wants us to think." Daniel frowned. "Think about what?" Moriyuki turned to him. "About what we missed the first time." Daniel's mind began to race again. The old cases, the unknown victims, the man watching the alley. And now, a message. It all felt connected, but the truth was still hidden. And somewhere, someone was watching them, waiting for their next move. The message stayed in Daniel's mind long after they left the river. "You were not supposed to look inside." The words felt heavy, like they were meant to scare, but also to challenge. Daniel could not stop thinking about them. Back at the station, the mood had changed. What started as a strange case was now something much more serious. Officers moved quickly, talking in low voices. Everyone could feel the tension. Inspector Moriyuki stood in front of a board filled with photos and notes. The old cases were now placed next to the new ones. Lines were drawn between them, trying to connect everything. But the more they looked, the more confusing it became. Daniel stood beside him. "It feels like we are missing something important," he said. Moriyuki nodded. "We are, and the person behind this knows it." Daniel crossed his arms. "Why send us a message? Why not just disappear again like before?" Moriyuki looked at him. "Because this time, they want to be seen." That answer made Daniel uncomfortable. "That doesn't make sense. Why would a criminal want attention?" "Control," Moriyuki said simply. "They want to control what we see, what we think, and what we do next." Daniel stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said, "So, what do we do?" Moriyuki turned back to the board. "We follow the pattern." He pointed at the photos. Each suitcase was found in a quiet place, an alley, an empty road, near the river, places where not many people go. Daniel nodded slowly. "And always at night." "Yes," Moriyuki said. "And there is always a gap of time between each one." Daniel looked closer. But this time, the second suitcase came too quickly. "Exactly," Moriyuki said. "That means something has changed." Before Daniel could reply, another officer walked into the room. "Inspector," she said, "we checked the clothes in the second suitcase." Moriyuki turned. "And?" "They belong to a man reported missing 3 days ago." Daniel's eyes widened. "So there is a victim?" "Yes," the officer said. "But there is more." She placed a photo on the table. Daniel picked it up. It showed a man in his early 30s. He looked normal. Nothing strange. Nothing unusual. "His name is Peter Mwangi," the officer continued. "He worked at a storage company." Moriyuki's expression changed slightly. "A storage company?" "Yes. He handled packages, deliveries, and storage units." Daniel felt something click in his mind. "Wait, storage? Suitcases?" Moriyuki looked at him. "You're thinking what I'm thinking." Daniel nodded. "What if the suitcases are not random?" The room became quiet. Moriyuki turned to the officer. "Where is this storage company?" "Industrial area," she replied. Moriyuki grabbed his coat. "Let's go." The building was large and old, surrounded by a tall fence. Most of the lights were off, but one section was still lit. A security guard stood near the gate, looking surprised to see the police. "Good evening," Moriyuki said. "We need to ask a few questions." The guard nodded nervously and opened the gate. Inside, the air smelled of dust and metal. Rows of storage units stretched in every direction. It felt like a maze. "Peter worked here?" Daniel asked. "Yes," the guard said. "Night shifts mostly." Moriyuki looked around. "Anyone else working tonight?" The guard shook his head. "No, sir." Moriyuki and Daniel exchanged a look. "Show us his area," Moriyuki said. They walked deeper into the building. The sound of their footsteps echoed around them. Daniel felt uneasy, like the walls were closing in. Finally, they stopped in front of a row of units. "This is where he worked," the guard said. Moriyuki nodded. "You can go." The guard left quickly, clearly uncomfortable. Now it was just Daniel and Moriyuki. "Look around," Moriyuki said. Daniel walked slowly, checking each unit. Most were locked. Some had labels, others did not. Everything looked normal, until he reached one unit at the end. The door was slightly open. "Inspector," Daniel called. Moriyuki walked over. "What is it?" Daniel pointed. "This one." Moriyuki carefully pushed the door open. Inside there was a suitcase. Another one. Daniel felt his heart begin to race again. This can't be a coincidence. Moriyuki stepped closer. "No, it's not." The suitcase looked newer than the others. Clean. Almost untouched. "Should we open it?" Daniel asked. Moriyuki hesitated. Then he nodded. He slowly opened the suitcase. Inside there was no body. Instead there were papers, lots of them. Moriyuki picked one up and began to read. His face became serious. "What is it?" Daniel asked. "These are records," Moriyuki said. "Names, dates, locations." Daniel leaned closer. "Victims?" Moriyuki nodded slowly. "Yes." Daniel felt a cold wave pass through him. "So, this is not just a few cases." Moriyuki looked at him. "It's many." Daniel's voice became shaky. "How many?" Moriyuki did not answer right away. He flipped through more pages, then stopped. His expression changed. "What?" Daniel asked. Moriyuki showed him one of the pages. Daniel looked at it, and his breath stopped. There was a name on the list, a name he recognized. His own Daniel stepped back in shock. "No! This is not possible." Moriyuki looked at him, equally surprised. "Daniel, this has to be a mistake," Daniel said quickly. "It has to be." But deep inside, he knew it was not. The room suddenly felt colder. The silence became heavy again. Then a sound broke it. A soft noise, like a door closing somewhere in the building. Daniel turned quickly. "Did you hear that?" Moriyuki nodded. "We are not alone." The lights flickered. Daniel's heart began to pound loudly. Somewhere in the shadows, someone was there, watching, waiting, and now, the trap was closing. The sound of the door echoed through the storage building, making Daniel's heart beat faster. The lights flickered again, and for a moment, everything went dim. The silence that followed felt heavy, like something bad was about to happen. Daniel looked at Inspector Moriyuki. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly. Moriyuki's eyes moved carefully around the room. "We stay calm," he said, "and we stay together." Another sound came from the darkness. Slow footsteps. Daniel's breath became shallow. He tried to see where the sound was coming from, but the shadows were too thick. Then, a figure slowly stepped into the light. It was a man. He looked normal at first. He wore simple clothes and his face was calm. Too calm. "Good evening," the man said in a soft voice. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Who are you? The man smiled slightly. I think you already know why I am here. Moriyuki stepped forward. You're behind the suitcases. The man did not deny it. Yes. Daniel could not believe how calm he was. Why? He asked. Why do all this? The man looked at him directly. Because people forget, he said. They forget the missing. They forget the lost. They forget those who disappear. Daniel frowned. That doesn't make sense. You killed them. The man shook his head slowly. No, I revealed them. Moriyuki's voice became firm. You put bodies in suitcases and left them in the streets. That is not revealing. That is murder. The man's smile faded a little. You only see the surface, he said. These people, no one was looking for them. No one cared. I made sure they were seen. Daniel felt anger rise inside him. You don't get to decide that. The man's eyes shifted slightly, then returned to calm. And yet, here you are, looking, investigating, saying their names. The room went quiet for a moment. Then Moriyuki spoke. Why is Daniel's name on the list? The man looked at Daniel again. This time his smile returned. Because every story needs a witness, he said. Daniel felt confused. What do you mean? The man took a small step closer. You were not supposed to find the first suitcase, but you did. That made you part of this. Daniel shook his head. No, I just found it by accident. There are no accidents, the man replied. Moriyuki moved slightly, positioning himself between Daniel and the man. It ends here, he said. You're coming with us. For the first time, the man's calm expression changed. He looked around, then gave a small laugh. Do you really think this is the end? He asked. Before they could react, he suddenly turned and ran into the darkness. Stop! Moriyuki shouted. They both chased after him, their footsteps loud in the empty building. The man moved quickly, turning between rows of storage units. Daniel struggled to keep up, his heart pounding in his chest. Over there! Daniel shouted as he saw the man near an exit door. But just as they reached it, the door slammed shut. Moriyuki pushed it open and ran outside, but the man was gone. Only the empty street remained. Daniel stood there, breathing heavily. He escaped. Moriyuki looked around, his face serious. Yes, but not forever. Daniel looked back at the building, then at the suitcase still inside. So what happens now? He asked. Moriyuki took a deep breath. Now we find him, and we stop this for good. Daniel nodded slowly. He was no longer just a witness. Now he was part of the hunt, and somewhere out there the man was still watching, waiting for the next move.